my temple as well.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from the Bhagavad Gita, not the Srimad Bhagavatam today, but the Bhagavad Gita. My name is Jamuna Jivana Das. Thank you for being here and guests, and welcome to the guests on YouTube watching. There's always people there. I watch all the time, so I know there's people there watching. Haribo.
No, is it streamed or?
Yeah, live stream. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're dialed in here. Yeah, yeah. Lots of yeah. So you never know who's watching. The guru might be watching, so you got to be very. Krishna is watching. So I'll read from Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 18, verse 54. So it's the very last chapter. Brahma-bhūta prasanamnatma na chotati na kankatati sama sarvesha bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity, and in that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the brahma-bhūta stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further. To become engaged in pure devotional service, this means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called brahma-bhūta. Oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Absolute, without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto Him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet the distinction is there, in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service is Krishna consciousness. Becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water, because a pure devotee who has no thought other than Krishna is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain, because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher or someone as lower. Higher and lower positions higher or lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the brahma-bhūta stage, and in this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poisonous teeth are broken. And there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth. There is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. Om Gyan Timarandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitain Yena Tasmai Shri Gurume Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Bhajranarayan Swami, who has opened my eyes, blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. So, a week ago, I was asked to give this class, and that was Saturday. And every day, I thought, what verse will I use? Monday I thought, okay, well, I didn't have an idea, so I thought, well, I have the whole week, I'll figure it out. What chapter or which verse. And then Wednesday came, and it was the middle of the week, and I thought, I still don't know which verse will I bring and study before I come. So I started to have transcendental anxiety, which is the best kind of anxiety. Then Thursday came, and I still was like, I don't know. Then in the morning, I would open the Bhagavad Gita and go to a random chapter and read the verse, and I thought, maybe I'll do this one. And then it didn't resonate. So then Friday came, and still the anxiety, the transcendental anxiety increased, and I thought, what am I going to do? What if I come here, there's no verse? How will I just pick randomly and say anything? So then I just said, okay, I'm not going to worry about this. So then Friday night came, and I went to the YMCA. They have the nice outdoor pool, so I swim there. So I was walking towards the door, and on the sidewalk was a praying mantis. And I didn't know that these creatures live here. I thought maybe they're in more tropical environments, but there was a praying mantis. So I crouched down and I looked at it, and it looked back at me. It stopped and it looked back at me, and I looked closer, and then it moved its head and it looked closer to me. And these eyes are wide out here, red eyes, in this body that looks like a stick. Looks like a branch fell off the tree and it's walking around. And so I thought, this is sama sarveshu bhuteshu. This is, the devotee sees the sameness in all things. So I thought, good, there's my verse. So then I went to this chapter 18, verse 54. So, I had this moment with this creature, this living entity, and I was looking at it thinking, this is a very strange looking creature, and it was looking at me, probably thinking the same thing. What is this creature going to do? It's a huge thing. So this is, one little example of how we aspire to get to a position of being one with the Absolute, or he is equally disposed towards every living entity. And then in the translation, for him, stone and gold are of equal value. So this is really, in the beginning of the verse, one who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. So this idea of seeing everything and everyone, small creatures, large creatures, enemies, friends, all in the same, seeing the consciousness within and not being distracted by the other things going on. So, and actually, I thought, this little thing, what can it be doing? But at the end of the day, we're all doing the same things: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So this creature, this little living entity, maybe it was running away from the grass from a mouse trying to eat it, defending. Maybe it was walking around looking for food, eating. Maybe it was looking for a mate. Maybe it was, walking off to the tree to sleep. So these four things, we're all doing the same things. So regardless of small creature, large creature. So in that way, I thought, this is a good place to start. So this is the 18th chapter. It's the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, spoiler alert: if you haven't read the whole Bhagavad Gita, or if you forgot how it ends, at this point in the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, hey, this is the platform of pure devotional service. That you can actually be situated in full Krishna consciousness and become fully joyful. And in the verse he says, you never lament or desire to have anything. So there's no lamentation of the past, oh, I wish I had done something different. I wish I had, picked this path. There's no lamenting. And then there's no desire to have anything. There's no hankering for the future. Oh, if I make more money, I'll be happy. Oh, if I get this car, everything will be better. Oh, if I forward. So this part of the Gita, by this point, Krishna has explained to Arjuna the three modes of material nature, karma yoga. He's shown his whole plenary expansion, and then Arjuna was like, hey, come back to your two-armed form, because that's pretty intense, the whole plenary, the whole expansion. So he's seen so much, and by this point, Arjuna is really ready to go into the battlefield with full Krishna conscious. And then a few verses later, Krishna says, if you simply just concentrate and place your senses on me while you fight, you'll be fine. In fact, you'll be liberated, and so will everyone else that you kill in this war. So this is really sort of the culmination of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Comes to this point of place all your awareness and senses on me, everything will be fine, don't fear, and you can achieve this really nice, vibrant, joyful state of being. So this is a really elevated platform. So we really, we read the literature and it makes sense. It's logical, especially all the way through. You go through a lot of the questions we have in life are answered and brought up and answered through the whole Bhagavad Gita. And so at this point, it sounds great. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. Sign me up. Great. That sounds like a great plan. So the question is, how do we do that? How exactly do we mature in our spiritual development, in our Krishna consciousness, to have this experience of joyfulness and to be able to see all things equally? Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. How do we get there? So the answer is through sadhana. So we know in Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada brought this science of self-realization, a very specific recipe of how to achieve this transcendental state of awareness while we are in this material experience. So kind of paralleling, the battle of Kurukshetra with our material lives, which is really the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita, is to give us perspective on how to live in the world. So how do we do this? How can we actually experience joy right now and begin to cultivate this joy and full awareness? So it's through the sadhana. And chanting Hare Krishna. So our sadhana, it's a very powerful thing. And, we hear it all the time. Oh, it's sadhana. We chant our rounds and we practice these, principles of devotional service. But it's really so powerful when we actually engage in the process and actually chant Hare Krishna daily. So, we have to do something. We have to actually do the work. Like in any goal. If you want to become a real estate agent, you have to take like 120 hours of coursework and then 150 question test, you get the license. Doctor, 8 years of school, and then all this process. So you have to do A, B, and C to get to the goal. So it's no different in spiritual life. We have to do something and be engaged in the work. There's work involved. It's not necessarily just, nice ideas and, philosophy that sounds nice. It's also not concocted ideas of how to achieve, full realization or become situated in a state of joyfulness. There is a really specific way that this works. So, sadhana cultivates our Krishna consciousness, and we can experience become transcendentally situated. So, I wanted to connect this idea through, in the Bhagavatam, in the third canto, there is a nice verse here. In the third canto, chapter 14, text 48, I'll just read one line, but the purport is actually really illuminating, and it connects to this chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And so it's pravada bhaktya he anubhavishatase. So the purport is there are 3 stages Oh, let me just back up. So the transliteration is pravada, means well-matured. Bhaktya means by devotional service. He, certainly. And anubhavita means being situated in anubhava, stage of ecstasy. So, well-matured devotional service certainly brings us to situates us into a stage of anubhava, which is a stage of ecstasy. So, the purport. There are 3 stages of transcendental development in devotional service, which are technically called sthayi bhava, anubhava, and mahabhava. Continual perfect love of Godhead is called sthati bhava, and when it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship, it is called anubhava. But the stage of mahabhava is visible amongst the personal pleasure potential energies of the Lord. It is understood that the grandson of Devotee, namely Prahlad Maharaj, would constantly meditate on the Lord and reiterate his activities. Because he would constantly remain in meditation, he would easily transfer himself to the spiritual world after quitting his material body. Such meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. This is especially recommended in this age of Kali. So, Bhagavatam, chant and hear, elevate the consciousness, experience joy, inner contentment. And then in Bhagavad Gita, this culmination of sama sarvesu bhuteshu is also mentioned. Same idea. He was equally disposed toward every entity, is a symptom of becoming transcendentally situated. So how? Sounds very nice. Sign me up. But how do we do this? So I feel like there's so many popular philosophers these days. There's pseudo philosophers and a lot of pseudo spiritualists. And they say, you hear a lot of fragrant words and, happy memes. And it's really important that we get this type of, inspiration. But you don't see a lot of how to, what do we do? So in Krishna conscious methodology, we do not eat meat, we do not have illicit sex, we do not gamble, and we do not take intoxication. And of course, when we take initiation, louder? When we take initiation, we have vows to chant 16 rounds a day, minimum 16 rounds a day. And so when I tell people, I don't eat meat, no sex, no gambling, no intoxication, not even caffeine, people are like, forget it. No way. I'm never going to do forget. How is this possible? How can you do this? But what they hear is no, 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 no. But actually, because we're engaged in this recipe of getting to a point of transcendental vibration, of higher transcendental pleasure, it's actually yes, 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 yes. From no meat eating, we practice ahimsa. We become nonviolent. We become more peaceful. Our frustrations, our anger kind of subsides. So by not eating meat, we cultivate ahimsa, and we generate this quality of nonviolence. No illicit sex or regulated sex is tapas, self-control. We cultivate self-control. It's a sex-crazed society. The movies, TV, commercials. It's like relentless, unrestricted. No problem. Sex everywhere, intoxication everywhere, no problem. It's the norm. So we see lack of self-control, illegal wars, illegal annexations. People just run in like chickens with their heads cut off. It's pretty evident in the world. And it is related to no self-control, no practice of self-control. And so tapas is what we cultivate with controlling the urge of sex life. No gambling. Satya, we develop truthfulness. We cultivate, by not gambling, we cultivate a sense of truthfulness. We are less likely to lie or deceive ourselves or deceive others. And no intoxication, not even caffeine. clean mind and body. So saucha, we cultivate saucha. The mind is clean. We're not intoxicating the body with alcohol, marijuana, all of the things, right, that are now totally normalized. I was reading this Ayurveda book in the very beginning. I know you study, right, Ayurveda? In the very beginning, it was talking about, and this is a quote that I can give you the resource, because I like to, if I say things, statistics, I like to back it up. I didn't bring it tonight. But the statistic was, America is 5% of the world population, but America eats 50% of the pharmaceuticals that are produced, mainly because of anxiety, depression, no self-control, the anger is off the charts, self-deception, deceiving others, all of the signs and symptoms of Kali Yuga. Like, this is all revealed. We're in the final chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, but this is all revealed way much earlier. The signs of Kali Yuga. So, in Ayurveda, the point was in the liver, and the kidneys are very important, and the liver gets hot. We blow out the liver from all these pharmaceuticals and processed foods that messes with the thyroid and endocrine system, and so people lose their hair, and the hypothyroidism and hypo. So it's amazing,
Vata
right?
and Pitta,
Right.
It's imbalance.
Exactly. Yeah. When in doubt, treat for Vata, right? So it's very interesting how, what we're saying is we want to achieve higher awareness. We want to experience contentment, happiness, peacefulness. And so Prabhupada said, okay, do these things. Here's the recipe. And it's so powerful to imagine that what people hear is no, 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 no. But we notice as devotees, and if you meet our acharyas who've practiced 20, 50 years, 60 years, they exhibit peacefulness, truthfulness, self-control. They are clean. Mind and body is clean, clear. So, and of course, chanting 16 rounds. So, the reason for these no mediating, for the ahimsa, cultivating tapas, satya, and saucha, those are the magic ingredients. From that creates the platform to experience anubhava. When we chant Hare Krishna, then we can actually experience that taste of Krishna consciousness. So that's the reason for these regulative principles, is to springboard into being able to connect us to our higher awareness. So my Guru Maharaj, Bhajranarayan Swami, he gives this great example of, remember those old radios? Yeah. Where you have to turn the knob and then the thing the dial goes, the frequency, right? And it sizzles. You got to find the right frequency, right? And so, following the regular principles is a way of being able to tune in and get to the right frequency, so that we can transmit and be symbiotic and have this relationship with Krishna. And specifically, anubhava, this feeling of joy and inner pleasure, is the style of bhava, of the three that I mentioned in the Bhagavatam, it relates to relationship. So when we chant Hare Krishna, we're not just checking off the box for the day. Oh, I have to do these rounds. Let me just blah, blah, blah. Chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, done. Check the box. Do the next thing. We are actually entering a relationship, an experience with Krishna. Krishna is non-different than his name. So it's very powerful, this whole idea of having a very specific sadhana, things to do, actual work that we engage in to cultivate this transcendental, to become situated in a transcendental state. Our nature is spiritual, and so by being engaged in spiritual activities, we naturally feel fulfilled. And so, caffeine, no problem, bye. Alcohol, no problem, bye. There's no pleasure there, right? So when we practice a little bit, soon enough, we begin to feel this contentment begins to pervade. I always think of Chasing the Rhinos, the great books by Shama Sundar, Prabhu. The early years when Prabhupada first came, the devotees were like, on acid in the classes, and were, they would leave class, go smoke cigarettes, come back in, it smelled like cigarettes everywhere. But very quickly, it was a hippie generation, so like everyone was like lit up, on drugs. But very quickly, once they began to practice the regular principles and chant Hare Krishna consistently, they just gave those things up. It was no problem. And we see it when people join the movement or people become more dedicated to chanting and practicing. Very quickly, they begin to glow a little bit because saucha, if you're not intoxicating the body, the liver's clean, the kidneys can work properly, you're filtering your internal environment, you're cleaner. The skin's cleaner, your mind is clear, you can think sharper. All of these benefits come out totally natural. And that's just their natural state of awareness. That's their natural constitutional position is Sat Chit Ananda, is eternally full of happiness and pleasure. So, at the end of this verse, the highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. So eventually we get to this position where we're so full of anubhava that we don't have any animosity, and we have the same love of each other, friend or foe. Just like just a couple verses later, Krishna says, hey, I've given you everything, full realization. Now go and fight in the battle, and even you'll kill your family, but you'll be fine, and you'll be liberated, and so will they. And so he then goes into the war, and of course he kills the family. But also Krishna says, but do what you want to do. Right? So all of this knowledge and practice comes into this point of, now you have full knowledge of me, engage your senses in me as you're battling in the field or as we are in the material world. But remember, you have free will. So you have all this knowledge, but still, do as you want. Do whatever you want. So that's where we are always at this crossroads. And such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. So again, connecting back to this Bhagavatam verse, in this age of Kali Yuga, chanting Hare Krishna, engaging in devotional service, interacting with devotees, hearing about the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, this is the method, this is the recipe for this particular age. There's 4 yugas. We're in the 4th yuga. This is the methodology that is backed up by Shastra, by our teachers who have been doing it, by Srila Prabhupada, who did it for many, many decades, by our teachers who are around, who have been doing it 50 years, 60 years. And it goes back. The Sampradaya is hundreds of years, thousands of years. So it's time-tested, and it still works. We see a lot of people transform really quickly, and we certainly invite everyone. I mean, everyone already is chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhu has his hand in his bead bag. So, of course, everyone's Krishna conscious here. But people at home, please chant Hare Krishna. Do not fear. And like Krishna says, placing all your awareness and senses on me, everything will be fine. So thank you for your attention. Let me know if you have any questions or reflections on any of these points. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for class.
You're welcome.
I was just reflecting, Maharaj, he always says garbage in, garbage out. So if you're eating dead pieces of flesh, what does that do to your consciousness? What does that do to your outward look on life? And another thing that you mentioned is that, this whole Kali Yuga, it has symptoms, depression, suicide, loneliness. It says there's over 7 billion people in the world today. But now is the time where people have never felt the most loneliest, Mm-hmm. People may have thousands of friends on social media, but they don't even get to meet them in real life.
Yeah.
And also, I should have wrote it down, but you mentioned something about changes. People that join the movement, they go through different changes. They slowly give up lower taste because they tasted something higher. And I remember when I first started coming to the temple, someone once asked me, do you miss eating meat? And I looked at them like, no way. So giving up meat, giving up intoxication, that's very easy once you tasted something higher. And Srila Prabhupada, like you said, he gave us the formula. All you got to do is just follow it.
Yeah, thank you, Govardhan Prabhu. That's true. Yeah, I hear about it more and more, about the loneliness, right? After the pandemic kind of kicked in, this loneliness, and now even after. So, yeah, the association of devotees being engaged in, devotional or spiritual activities, the soul responds to it, right? We're spirit souls that are looking for this, but it's our nature, right? It's actually our nature. So if we misidentify ourselves with the temporary body, then we look for temporary solutions to find the happiness. And it's just fleeting joy. It's fleeting happiness. And so it's just kind of running this cycle over and over again. Oh, if I do happy hour, or if I do this, or if I have this relationship, or if I do this work, so we have to be practical. We're in the material world, right? We are in the battle. We are in the war. The battle of Kurukshetra is just a reflection, is symbolic of what we experience every day. So these answers are here. The methodology of chanting and hearing is the solution. One of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that we deceive ourselves and others. We want to be tricked, and we want to trick other people. So the mind is really powerful. So if we were in the desert and you need water, and someone walks by and says, oh, if you need water, just go see that cactus, go around the corner, make a left, and there's a water there. But we want to fool ourselves. We typically go, oh, actually, I'll figure it out myself. Oh, I have my own style. I have my own method to get to the water. I'll find out on my own. Okay. It's a similar thing. We're saying, simply chant Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya came in Kali Yuga. Here's the recipe. The loneliness. People are jumping out of windows, right? What was it? Bed Bath & Beyond guy jumped out the window when they're flying out of the window. Okay, well, here's the peace and happiness you're looking for is the mantra. Really simple, right? Practice saucha, practice some self-control, clear the mind, clean the body, and you can chant Hare Krishna, and the vibrancy is there, and the fulfillment is there, no problem. So, but no one takes to it. I mean, well, Krishna consciousness is huge, international society, and many people are joining, of course. But it's really evident in Kali Yuga that we're not inclined to just go, oh, okay, sure, let me try this method. Let me try this. So we just do the best we can to promote Sankirtan and chanting Hare Krishna. And I always like to say, if we don't have, I know Prabhu, one time I gave a class and we chanted Hare Krishna for 15 minutes. It was really, really, really blissful. But if anyone wants a Bhagavad Gita, all of the answers are there. This book has been around for actually we don't know, forever. There's no really starting point. So please take a Bhagavad Gita. My treat, if you don't have one, we have copies. Actually, Govardhan Prabhu is a Sankirtan devotee, so we can hook you up. Also, beads. It's important to have chanting beads and to dedicate some time every day to chant the mantra. Because like Padma said, we actually are spiritual beings. When we chant Hare Krishna, that anubhava just is right there. And so chanting regularly is how we can connect to what we're looking for. So, any other questions or comments? Anything from YouTube world? I don't know if it's dialed in. Giri Hari Priya Das, anything? Bhakta Jean?
I do have a question. That's my internal question that I feel that the deeper...
This is for at-home viewers can listen.
The deeper I go into
with spiritual practice, the more I feel disconnected from that material world that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so there is that disconnection as well. How do you not feel that way? I mean, yeah, it feeds my soul and my spirit, and that's my true nature, and it's all beautiful, and the kirtans and all this, but there's a minority of us doing
Right.
that. So you have to kind of leave that other part of the world behind, and it's not easy, and it feels like a struggle sometimes.
Great point. You know what, and I really struggle with that myself. In my guru, Bhajanarayan Swami, he always makes a good point that we have to live in the material world and the spiritual world. And we sort of like train tracks, you know, and we have to be realistic. It's like, you know, Krishna tells Arjuna, hey, your nature is you're a warrior. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, I'm not going to fight. I don't want to do this. Because this is my family, and I don't want to kill my uncles. But by the end, he goes and kills his family. So he has full, you know. But the train tracks, you know, if we jump on and do all spiritual life, the material life suffers. We can't pay rent, buy the car, all of, you know, gas is over $6 a gallon now. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy, right? But if we do all material life, then our spiritual life suffers. So it's like train tracks. It's sort of, Dalai Lama calls it the art of living. We have to shape and form a lifestyle with our sadhana so that we can live both, you know, and it's just where we have no choice. It's like Arjuna, you know, this is where we are. This is my duty, is to be in this war. My nature is, you know, is warrior. And so in the same way, here we are, adults in Kali Yuga, and we hear about this transcendental knowledge and a pathway to experience, you know, Krishna consciousness. But then we have to leave and put gas in the car and feed the dog and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I struggle with the same thing. But actually coming into the temple, engaging with the devotees, hearing Bhagavad Gita, it sort of softens the edges on all of these things. So coming back to this idea of, you know, consistent sadhana, practicing the regulator principles, it does take the edge off of the conflict, of the war between, you know, what am I doing? What should I do? How should I do it? All the answers are in the Bhagavad Gita, so always rereading the Bhagavad Gita. You never stop reading it, you know. I just happened to be in the last chapter, so when I mentioned all week, what am I going to read? How am I going to, which verse? But it was right under my nose. It was just a few verses ahead of where we went tonight. But when I'm finished, then I just start back over again. So I find that when the spiritual practice sort of wanes even a little bit, then the material frustrations kick in. And so it's coming seated in the observer to be like, oh, I'm beginning to react. I'm beginning to have a little bit of an edge. Well, how's my sadhana doing? How many rounds am I chanting? How's my diet? How's my sleep? You know, back to Ayurveda. Be in bed by 10, up at 6, right? The Vata, 10 to 2 a.m. is when the brain can detoxify. So all these things, that's the sadhana. So being aware of that. So it's a balance for sure. Yeah, but being more connected to the spiritual community is a fantastic way to, you know, kind of softens this reality of being in this material world, in this war, so to speak, you know, in comparing the Battle of Kurukshetra. Jai. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for performing early. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
So, with this we conclude the Saturday program at 8 o'clock. So Prashadna will be served outside.
Oh, nice.
And last session at 8:50, 15 minutes.
Oh, good. Okay. Hare Krishna.